Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Paradise on Hulu. Episode 5 is called In the Palaces of Crowned Kings. We got quite a bit of insight into the very powerful Bradford family in this episode, starting with that 1997 flashback where we learned that our late president, Cal Bradford, wanted to be a high school teacher. Unfortunately, his dad, who is definitely no peach, had another plan for him. He called him complete crap in the family oil business and then said, "Hey son, you're going into politics and here's exactly how you're going to do it." There was no choice given, and now we know that that culminated in Cal becoming the president and now leading the city down here in Paradise. And unfortunately, that also led to his death. One of the things I think that was so well done in this episode was the portrayal of dementia. Alzheimer's is just heartbreaking, and I really hope that they're able to find a cure in my lifetime, or at least my kids' lifetime. Watching it on TV is just so emotional, and I am fortunate where I don't have any loved ones with Alzheimer's in my own life, but my heart goes out to anybody who is struggling with this. If you watch This Is Us, then you know there was a pretty prevalent theme of dementia in the later seasons of that show as well. Dan Fogelman does a really great job taking away some of the stigma, bringing awareness to it. And here in Paradise, I do think that dementia is also kind of a convenient device where it allows some information to slip out to Cal that he would not have normally been able to get out of his dad. And speaking of Dan Fogelman, he actually has a 3-season plan for this series, and we still haven't had any renewal news yet for season 2. We've only got 3 episodes left at this point, so I would imagine it will be coming soon, maybe to coincide with a big twist or revelation in one of these last 3 episodes to get more impact and maximize the marketing. So far, do you think the show's earned a second season? Drop it in the comments and let me know. Before we get more into episode 5, please go ahead, like this video, and hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy videos where I talk about dark TV shows, then you might want to stick with me for some more TV talk. Right now, I'm covering Severance on Apple TV+, finishing up Dexter Original Sin on Paramount Plus with Showtime this week, which will be just in time to usher in The White Lotus on HBO Max, also covering The Hunting Party on NBC, and a really fun supernatural teen drama called School Spirits on Paramount Plus. So stick with me here at the channel. One thing I really enjoyed about this episode, actually and the last episode, is the use of music. Episode 4 leaned heavily into Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Here we got the Rocky Eye of the Tiger, and that cover at the end, I just thought it was very well done. Along with that, weaving in the literary narrative that Cal's dad is reading in this book, starting out with that gorgeous, surreal-ish visual in the opening scene. I loved that. And eventually him reading that poem made him realize that he saw her on the night this happened. Her, I assume, has to be Presley. There was the scene earlier in the episode with Jeremy and Presley watching the golf course, and Jeremy's grandfather came in and kind of grabbed her by the arm. Why would Presley have been in the Bradford house that night? We know Presley and Jeremy have a little bit of a blossoming relationship, and something I've been saying is, are they somehow related to this whole scandal or conspiracy that's going on? I should also apologize because in the last episode, I wasn't deeming Jeremy Bradford's grief to be proper, but now we know more about the fact that he's carrying around quite a bit of guilt for the way he treated his dad and blew him off the night he died. So poor Jeremy, I think it is just terrible. But circling back, why was Presley at the Bradford house the night of the murder? We know the cameras were down, so we're probably never going to see that. I don't think she's working with her dad. What could she gain by getting this tablet? And if she doesn't have access to it and it is required to have Cal's dad's biometrics in order to access these classified files about what happened on the surface? Motive? I just don't know. Unless it ties back to her mother somehow is maybe the only thing I can think. We did get confirmation that there could be more people alive on the surface. And at first I thought when they found that woman up there, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe it's Cal's wife. But then I went back and I listened, and it turns out that she actually spoke Creole and would have needed some sort of translation back at Paradise. So definitely not her, but I do wonder if that could somehow be playing into the long game of this show. We also got more information about that number. We saw Cal writing it down at the end of this episode. It was after he had gone through the tablet, he used his dad's information to gain access to those classified files, which, by the way, that must have really pissed him off, not even being able to see what's really going on in the place where he is literally the president. Ugh. Even though I did not see the exact number in those files on the tablet, I suspect he found another file that could have something even bigger, and that is actually the file number with whatever this big hidden secret is. Not sure what exactly it is. Could it be there are other mountains out there? Doubtful, because I do think that they are really focusing in on the fact that these are gazillionaires and they were the only ones elite enough to be able to join this post-apocalyptic society. So if it's not just the fact that there are other people alive, what are some other possibilities as to what could be so important that that file was the one he wrote down? Because it was not the file number he wrote down from the one where Billy ended up killing them, or Billy was communicating back with Sinatra. So circling that, moving forward. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier with the musical nod was the fact that Cal named his son Jeremy after the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam 10 was the first cassette tape I ever bought. Actually, you know what? It might have been New Kids on the Block, but it was very early for me. I'm still a Pearl Jam fan to this day. Love the Jeremy reference. Love that song. But what's interesting is, did they bring up the Pearl Jam reference? Because if you know what the song is about, it's about a student who shot himself in front of his classroom. Could that be giving us some sort of clue that Jeremy could maybe be involved with this? I just don't see him killing his dad. I don't know. There is some sort of connection between him and Presley, so I guess we'll see what it ends up being. But one scene between Jeremy and his grandfather, where his grandfather kept thinking that he was Cal, and Jeremy says something like, "I forgive you," that meant a lot. Again, back to the dementia. Imagine how hard it must be, and I'm sure some of you probably already know this, and my heart goes out to you if you are dealing with Alzheimer's for a family member or loved one. But having to play into that and kind of placate it, because you don't want to argue with them, it's just going to make him more irate. But those scenes, all the dementia stuff in this episode, I mean, it just really got me. And it has me asking quite a bit of questions about Cal's dad in the first place. He was another character who was in This Is Us. He played Dr. K, the doctor to the big three. Quite the opposite role here, and Gerald McRaney is just fantastic. What does he know? And now that we know, obviously he's got the dementia, he could let some very big things slip to the wrong person, which makes me wonder if that is what has already happened and he accidentally let something slip to whoever it was, and that's what put all of this plan into motion. The fact that he let out that Billy was a sniper, what are you talking about? And then, of course, he asks Robinson if his dad had a nickname for her, and he did not. Cal's having a very hard time sitting with this information, though, which is interesting because if we do compare it to a show like Silo, and we see our Bernards and Meadows, people in high positions who have to sit with information and not tell anybody, especially really big information, that hits pretty hard for some people, and it led to Cal losing his life, of course. But luckily, he was able to get to Gabriella, where he must have originated that hand trick where he wrote on his hand, Billy Pace. And that's why Gabby ended up going to Xavier later on. So it makes me think that maybe we can rule out Gabby. She does seem to be maybe just too good, too sweet, too smart, all of that stuff. But if that interaction was real, perhaps she's not a bad guy. Or she goes directly to Sinatra with the information that Cal knows about Billy and puts this into motion. That would tear me up. I loved that steamy shower scene, and I think her and Xavier would make a great couple, but I have a feeling that they may be trying to set a table for Gabriella, this architect of social well-being. I think there could be more to this character. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. Robinson has definitely become suspicious of Sinatra, and now that she knows that there are guns, she goes to Xavier, talks about their circle of trust. I loved how Xavier was like, yeah, my circle of trust is pretty small right now, and that moment really felt like a Randall Pearson line. I love Sterling K. Brown. I don't think I can do an episode about Paradise without saying that at least once. Give the man all the awards. I will forever and ever watch anything he is in. He just becomes the character. He is Xavier Collins here. but I did like that line. It gave me a little bit of a Randall tingle. But in retrospect now, Xavier's starting to put more things together. For instance, the last day Cal was arrived, Sinatra was over there. That line that she told him about, hey, I want to see what it looks like when you have balls, sir. Could that be any more of an insult? She's essentially like, hey, you're a nobody. You have no power. You're not in charge here. I am in charge here. And your dad is more in charge here than you are, despite his dementia. But Xavier's starting to come around. Him and Robinson do end up meeting for a drink at some point. And Robinson tells Xavier about the guns. I'm not sure what exactly they'll do with the guns, but now that Xavier's sniffing some stuff out, for instance, putting a camera in the streetlight that was definitely not broken, he manages to get that message through his neighbor, Carl, onto the sky at the end of the episode, which says they're lying to you. All right, Silo viewers, did anybody else feel like, wow, that felt so spot on, Silo? And yes, it's a broad thing, a bigger conspiracy and mystery in a TV show. It's nothing new, but it is kind of the same concept where the powers that be are not forthcoming with what is actually going on the surface. And it could be for their safety. They want to protect all these people who probably poured a bunch of resources into the creation of this mountainside bunker. All in all, very Silo. And a little bit of Fallout too, because we know they were not being honest with the vault inhabitants in Fallout either. So, well, there are some similarities. Yeah, the shows are different, so I'll shut up about it. I know some of you are like, yeah, I can never have too many dystopian shows. That's cool. Hey, all I'm saying is that there is a pretty saturated landscape. This one does feel different because it is much more emotionally gripping, and the dramatic tension, I think, is a lot stronger. And it doesn't have that same just overall dark, ominous feel because it is a lighter environment. It is not giving underground. They do a really good job of making you feel like you are actually living in a normal city on Earth. That book that Cal's dad was reading throughout this episode, it did open up with him reading it, that beautiful visual at the beginning of the show. And then the bookmark and talking about Cal's mom, you can see that there are some little emotional moments that shine through of authenticity, not of complete anger. And I wonder if this book has more to do with it. I guess maybe I need to go back and watch again. I've already watched twice, by the way, but maybe see if I can transcribe that poem or look up the poem he's reading and see if there are more clues in there that I was not picking up on. I mean, it helped him realize the fact at the end, of course, that Presley was there the night he died. So what else could be in there that we didn't pick up on? If you picked up on anything that could be a clue for what is going on, drop it in the comments. One other thing I was kind of worrying about is Xavier says that his neighbor Carl's not supposed to have pets. How did he smuggle the dog down there? Surely they were checking people's belongings? Does he know somebody in power besides Xavier that allowed him to take this dog down here? I don't think he's a part of the bigger conspiracy because obviously he was the vessel where they got that message up in the sky. It also makes me wonder, they seem to be pretty technologically capable down here, and will they find out that Carl was the one to do that? If so, I imagine they will tie it back to Xavier given the fact that they're neighbors. But the number one thing I don't want to see is anything happening to that dog. That adorable little dog, if it is the only one that is in paradise, please let the dog live. And I do hope someone else snuck a dog in. Maybe they can do a little breeding and keep the dogs alive. Oh my gosh, I'm such a dog person. Also got a cat last year and I love her too. Just animals in general. So sad that they can't have pets down there. But hey, we'll see what happens with Carl's dog. Another little sneaky thing that happened in this episode was the fact that Robinson told Xavier that the DNA results never arrived at the lab. And they're both essentially staring at Sinatra when it happens. And yeah, Sinatra does appear to be the HBIC. She's the head bitch in charge. She is the most powerful of everybody down here. She was the most powerful woman up on the surface as well. And they're telling us, yeah, she is the bad guy, but I cannot help but think that there is still something more they are not telling us. I am waiting for a bigger twist to come, not sure what it is. And yeah, she's probably the big bad, but what else could there be to this situation that is really going to broaden the strokes here? Because they've been painting her as this villain the entire time, so it is expected, but I want something unexpected. We'll see exactly what that ends up being. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe they're just giving us everything we need to know, and we're just going to keep watching and see how it ends. I don't know. Overall, this episode was very strong. There were some pretty good one-liners in this episode as well. It kind of broke my heart when Jeremy and his grandfather both told Cal that he's not their president. Are you kidding me? I mean, the poor guy was obviously having a really rough go of things in the last couple weeks of his life. They're putting a lot of attention and focus on the fact that he was running around in his bathrobe. He was drinking. He also made a trip to the library here. And because we saw that scene about him burning the CD at the beginning, obviously that CD will come into play later. Perhaps Jeremy and Presley will start investigating. But I keep going back to the fact that what is Presley going to gain by getting this tablet? Did she take it for somebody else? If it is for her, why? What is Xavier going to do when he discovers his daughter has the tablet? And again, they can't access it. Maybe Xavier does go back to the house and do something similar that Cal did and wait for Cal's dad to be sleeping and use his biometrics in that manner. I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. But I want you to drop all of your thoughts and theories down in the comments. Let me know. What do you think we can expect in these next 3 episodes? Will you tune in if we do get a second season? Tell me how much you love Sterling K. Brown on a scale of 1 to 10, because literally for me, it is off the charts. Oh, and one more one-liner, the one about a bunch of gazillionaires sticking their hands up Cal's butt and making him talk. Are you even kidding me? This episode just dug very hard into the fact that Cal had no power. He was drowning his sorrows and lack of really living the life he wanted to do in alcohol. And like Jeremy said, what's it going to be like once the alcohol runs out, right? Poor Cal. I can't wait to see who ends up being the killer, what revelations and twists they can bring in this season. So I'll be back next week to talk about it. But in the meantime, like I said, if you like these videos where I talk about TV shows, please give this one a like and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I'll be back again soon. So, Media Melanie, clicking off.